was probably being a bit unfair to Mark Flint in the video on Fire Rock that I posted a few days ago. Having taken a little bit more time to poke at some of his computer games, he definitely had a bit of talent. And it really doesn't help that his publisher, System Sakam, had a bad tendency to pick titles that wound up overlapping with more famous games. I don't know about calling Mark Flint a genius programmer and promoting him into his own brand, but in terms of technical skill on a computer, he seems to have had the chops. Now, on the Famicom Disk System, well, let's just say that his 2 games there are a bit unfair to him. If you skip the Fire Rock episode, Mark Flint is a Japanese game programmer who System Sakam tried to push forward as a celebrity developer. Flint dropped out of the games industry sometime in the early 90s without ever having made a game that really caught on. His best-known games are Jelly Boy for the Super Famicom, which was brought to the US as Smart Ball, and Yume Mikan no Densetsu for the Mega CD, which was released internationally as The Mansion of Hidden Souls. So things that aren't 100% forgotten, but not really games you'd point to for their technical excellence. This is also the final game from Dog that I'm going to be looking at. I eulogized Square's Disc Original group in my previous episode on Aku Senki Raijin, which was released on the same day. In short, Dog was a publishing collective by several computer game developers who released games to the Disk System through Square. But this collective fell apart with the failure of the Disk System. Moonball Magic was published only to the Disk Rewriter kiosks, the vending machines in stores where you could take your Famicom Disk System games in and have whole new games put on them. Distribution of new covers for games written this way had stopped, but Square still made 2 different Moonball Magic covers. They just put them on a flyer and let you cut them out yourself. Moonball Magic is kind of sort of a sequel to a very early PC 98 game under the title Moonball, or Flint's Moonball if you're just looking at the title screen. It was a relatively straightforward pinball game in the style that was common on computers at that point. Moonball Magic is pretty different. You start out on this silent screen, batting the ball around on a pretty basic table. You're automatically dropped into this game with no warning or interaction on your part, and you don't even launch the ball, it just appears in the middle of the field. Eventually, you'll hit the ball into one of the holes in the field, and that's when the music kicks in. Rather than getting kicked back out, the ball drops down a screen to a whole new area, and then it proceeds to roll through a fairly lengthy title sequence. I've got a lot of mean things to say about Moonball Magic coming up, and I don't think that'll come as a surprise to dedicated viewers of this channel, since I have a whole long video about the development of pinball video games and the ways that they can go wrong. However, this title screen is really clever. It's the best single idea in the game. Once you're past that title sequence, the real Moonball Magic begins. And it consists of a series of 11 pinball stages, where your goal on every one of those is to open a path to a hole on the table that leads to the next stage. Hitting left activates left flippers, hitting the A button activates right flippers, and pressing any other direction on the D-pad or the B button will nudge the table. The table can't tilt, and you're really expected to just continuously pound those nudges. The most important thing about pinball video games is how does it feel to play them. You could have the greatest table in the world, and if the physics are unpleasant, then it's not going to be very fun to play. In Moonball Magic, the ball's movement and interaction with objects feels just awful. The game uses some techniques that were common for pinball video games at the time, and a large portion of why pinball video games had such an awful reputation. One aspect of this shows up really well when the ball collides with anything that isn't a straight-edge surface. So that would be most things. Collisions occur when the pixels in the ball sprite overlap with pixels of the background, and then the game applies some rebound calculations, along with some acceleration or deceleration factor depending on how it's bouncing, and then a bit of random factor. But because of the way the ball moves, you'll see that these collisions occur repeatedly, and you get a ball that doesn't move naturally. The flippers and any launchers don't apply a whole lot of acceleration, And the issues with the collision and kick are really visible here on stage 3, where if you fall down this right-hand side to the launcher, the ball has a bad tendency to get stuck. It doesn't have enough force to get out of the hole, and it keeps jiggling into walls, which steal away all of its vertical momentum. The fix that was applied here, and I am putting some heavy air quotes around fix, is that most of the tables in Moonball Magic have mysterious acceleration spots. They look kind of like equals sign on the playfield. When the ball rolls over these, it just gets a bit of acceleration applied in a particular direction, but often that's not enough to overcome the rest of the ball's motion. The result is just more inconsistent ball movement. Complicating things on tables are enemies that will appear and get in your way. The table design in Moonball Magic isn't especially realistic. You can warp from one side to the other. There are power-ups that will defeat enemies, and sometimes you have to shoot out blocks. It gives you a few more things to do on every stage, though the layout of the tables themselves isn't especially inspiring. You have 3 balls at the start of Moonball Magic, but if you run out, you can always continue from the stage you lost on, though naturally, progress on that stage is reset. Japanese players of Moonball Magic, well, they don't seem to exist. This is one of those games where it's really not remembered at all, and the one person I found who gave their opinion on it hated it, though I really wouldn't call that a sample of player opinions. And yeah, Moonball Magic is really unfun to play. Passing stages relies more on random chance than your skill at handling the ball. Not that you can really apply any skill to handling the ball here, because the physics engine is just that bad. Nintendo's original pinball from 1984 was better than this. You should just play that instead of Moonball Magic.